Welcome, builders of the internet. My name is Jessa and I work in construction. Today's video is going to be another of my On My Mind series where I give a quick mental health update. As it's December, I thought it would be quite nice to recount the year and say some of the good and bad things that have gone on, as well as talking about some of the things that I've learned about myself, particularly through my therapy sessions. On my mind. 2020 has certainly come with its challenges, and I'm sure for many of us it's been different to anything we've experienced before. I think some of the bad things that have come out of this year, for me in particular, is that I've lost a very meaningful relationship, had to part ways with one of my best friends, unfortunately. And then there's also things such as I've stopped playing violin so much because I don't really have orchestras to go to, and haven't really been doing as much sewing lately, which is one of my hobbies, which I really enjoy doing, but I just haven't really had the time for it or had as much motivation for it. I think sometimes for me as well this year I've reached a point of taking on too much to do. I love multitasking, but sometimes find it hard to find the balance with that. And university has been a huge stress for me. At the beginning of the year I submitted some assignments late, and so I had to go through various mitigation appeals and stuff like that. And this term everything's been submitted on time, fortunately, but it's taken up a lot more time than I anticipated, which has made me lack a lot of sleep, particularly this week, which is why I feel incredibly tired and probably got lots of eye bags and everything. I think 2020 has also proven difficult for keeping in touch with people, because I just find it really hard to maintain sort of my posting on social media when nothing really new is happening to me, and also keeping in touch with friends because I don't really have anything new to update them on or to talk about particularly that I think they would find interesting. But I think that's repairing itself, and I found it hardest sort of when lockdown started, so between March and maybe June, but I think I'm getting used to it at this point, and this sort of feels like a new normal for me, though I'm hoping it does return back to somewhat what life was like beforehand. Though there have been plenty of good things that have happened. I've got a newfound interest in environmental psychology, which has inspired me to start this channel talking about mental health and buildings and trying to learn more about this stuff. There have been some other pretty cool opportunities for me this year. I've been able to virtually volunteer with Young Minds, which is a charity that focuses on mental health of young people under the age of 26. And I've signed up to this new volunteering organisation called the Young Apprentice Ambassador Network, where I have chances to speak to schools and parents and stuff about being an apprentice, which you can find some videos in my channel about my career in apprenticeships if you really wanted to. I think volunteering is such a wholesome experience for myself, where I feel like I'm contributing something towards other people's lives, as well as helping me put perspective on my own matters by seeing what other people are going through as well. I've also met some new people this year, virtually and in person before lockdown, which has been really exciting and given me hope that I'm not completely incompetent with socialising, and it's sort of really helped me through some of my difficult points of this year. And finally, I've started therapy, which I've been intending to do for ages, but because I worked full-time, found it really hard to accommodate going somewhere in person because they seem to mostly be open in work hours. But luckily, there's a lot of online facilities that I've utilised. There are also so many things that I've learned about myself this year with the help of my therapist, which could be good and could be bad depending on how you want to look at it. But yeah, one of these things that I've learned is that I have a lot of internal competition. As I was growing up, my parents always wanted me to be the best at things, and that mentality has sort of solidified itself in my head. And a lot of what I do is I want to be the best at, and I found that when I realise that I'm not the best at something, or feel like I don't have hope of becoming the best of something, I drop out of it, which I'm working on, because I do feel like I've backed out of some choices which I could have potentially taken through with in the future, and I'm happy with where I am now, but got to make sure that I keep that motivation even when things get tough. I've also had some realizations about how past relationships have affected me, and came to learn that I was at a point where I was pretty much dependent on one person for providing for me emotionally, which I think now one of my goals is to reach a point of self-esteem, self-worth, and confidence in my own abilities without relying on solely one other person to provide that all for me. Another thing that I found a bit difficult this year is how I've reacted to criticism. I think when I immediately hear criticism, I'm quite defensive and will try and sort of back myself up and be like, no, I didn't intend for X, Y, Z. So I'm trying to sort of get better at receiving that in person straight away, so that I can be more productive in how I respond to things and really take on board what people have to say, or determine if what people have to say is relevant to my self-improvement. And the last thing that I'll talk about that I've learned is that other people have their own stuff going on. I know it seems really obvious, but I feel like it's something that's come into fruition for me over the past few weeks, and that most people, whenever they may react kind of negatively about something, it's usually because of their own sort of triggers from what's happened to them in the past. And so I'm trying to be more understanding about that. And I think one example of which is, say, when somebody is quite accusatory and say, oh, you did this, you did that, or they're a bit more blunt to me, I think what I've tried to do in my head is think, okay, well, maybe they've got a different background where they're just a lot more brutally honest about things, or maybe they're having a bad day, and just trying to be more sympathetic about other people's circumstances instead of thinking that everything is a direct attack upon myself, because funnily enough, the world doesn't revolve around me. One thing that I cannot wait for is if and when life gets back to normality, so that I can try and implement all these things that I've been working on in therapy, see how it works out in the real world. I'm really looking forward to what the future has in store. Hopefully 2021 is a better year, but to be honest, I'm really fortunate and haven't really got much to complain about, to be honest. But that's all I have to say for now. I hope it helped build in your mind.
Thanks for watching this channel, it's building on my mind. Check out my other videos, but first hit the bell and comment, like, subscribe.